Hey everybody, it's Keaton here at Delta Mites. And today we're going to be talking about growing peppers in containers. Now, over the past few weeks here, we've done a lot of farmers markets selling seedlings and getting out there, connecting with the communities and talking to a lot of customers. And one thing that I've noticed overwhelmingly is a blocker for a lot of people in growing peppers is just a lack of information or misconceptions about the amount of time, effort, energy, and space it takes to grow a pepper. So I decided to put together a video here to put all that information out for y'all to use or not. It's up to you, but I really wish I had this information, years before I started growing peppers, because if I had known it was this easy, I would have been doing it for about 8 more years. It's insane just how easy it is. This plant right here is absolutely going crazy right now. He's got at least 30 or 40 blooms on him and at least a dozen cayennes already growing on him. And it's really taken not a lot of energy. I water him maybe every 2 or 3 days, and every other week he gets fertilizer, and we'll talk about that in a later video. That's not the focus of today's, but I just want to illustrate just how easy it is to grow peppers. It's incredibly easy. So when you are considering how much space you want to dedicate to peppers, really all you're talking about is how much room do you have for a pot. All right, it can be indoors, it can be outdoors, it can be in a grow room in the basement like I am in right now. The only things that matter is that it gets food, it gets water, and it gets sunlight, all right? Now, one thing you also got to keep in mind is the size of the pot does matter, and it's up to you to figure out what that size that works for you is. All right, all 3 of these plants were started December 31st, 2020. That's when I put the seeds in the dirt. And all 3 of them have grown to different sizes in the exact same amount of time. And the only differentiating factor here is the size of the pot that they're in. All right, that's it. That's the only difference between these 3 plants, is the size of pot that they're in. This guy right here is still in the starter pots that I jumped them up to from the trays that I started them out in. This guy right here is in a number 2 gallon pot, and that's just, a number 2 nursery pot, and that's usually the size of it, the approximate volume of it. Number 2 is right about 2 gallons. This is a number 5 pot, so it's roughly right about 5 gallons of volume able to fit in here. Typically, 5 to 7 gallon pots are going to be the best for you, and you'll see the best results. You'll see this level of growth on them, and even bigger. All right, but it's up to you to decide what size of pot you want to go with. Now, the other consideration you need to have is drainage. Peppers absolutely hate wet, soggy soil. They like it at best damp, moistish, but on the drier side, all right? And I know that's an incredibly loose term to hear, but your plant will tell you when it needs more water, all right? You'll start seeing everything. The best way I would describe it is deflated, droopy, it's weepy. All the leaves will wilt down, and it just looks like the plant is very depressed. Check the soil. If you see that, that's when it's time to water it, all right? Keep it just about at that point. Don't worry too much about overwater, don't overwater this plant. And make sure it has really good drainage. So all of the pots I use are standard nursery pots that all come with drainage in the bottom of them. So in this one, you see all the holes here. This one, you see them all around the bottom here. There's small holes going around, slots for the water to drain out of. But you can also get decorative pots and stuff like that as long as they have drainage. This guy right here has a little cup underneath them to catch excess water, but the plant sits on the bottom up here, and that gives it a little bit of standoff for the excess water to drain. And that's incredibly important. And this is a great setup for an inside plant because, I mean, you got to have something to collect that water. When you go to anywhere when you're looking at buying a plant, and you're trying to decide which one, keep in mind that you're buying it from a mass producer of plants, and they all use soil. And one thing that comes with soil is pests. So keep an eye, like actually take your time selecting what plant to get, because if you don't look under that leaf to see if there's aphids hanging out underneath it, you're going to have a lot of problems. It's going to come home and those aphids are going to explode, and then they're going to jump from one plant to the next, and it's going to be an infestation that you got to handle. We'll put out another video on how to do that too, so stay tuned for that. But again, it's not the topic here. Take a look at the plant, make sure there's a lot of green leafy growth on it. Make sure it looks like a generally healthy plant, all right? There's 1,001 things I could say that describe a generally healthy plant, but you can sit here and look at all these plants and see they're pretty happy, all right? They're the right color, they're growing, all of them have new growth on them that they're putting out, the little tiny leaves, that's the new growth you're seeing. Make sure it looks generally healthy. Take a look at the bottom. Make sure there isn't just roots coming all out of the bottom, because that's a sign that it's probably root bound as heck. And that's where it's spent too long in that pot, and the roots have turned into this basically a wall. Think of it as a pot within a pot of just roots. And that's a huge pain in the butt to deal with if it's very, very excessive, all right? A little bit of root, being root bound isn't going to bug you, or it's not going to be a hassle to deal with. But if you actually have roots just spilling out of the bottom and you can tell it's just a white wall of roots all around it, probably pick a different plant, all right? Good root growth, but it's going to be a hassle to get that spread out to actually be able to expand beyond that. When you buy it, it's going to be in a starter pot, all right? Again, like I was talking about before, you can keep it in that pot if you want, but you're not going to see a lot of production. If you want this level of production, you're going to have to up pot, all right? And that seems to be a really daunting task for a lot of people. It was for me when I first did this too. It's like, oh, how do I literally remove this plant from this pot and put it in another? It's actually a lot easier than I made it out to be to myself when I first started this, all right? First, get another pot. Next, get some soil, all right? Now that, again, you're gonna have to go to Lowe's, Home Depot, nursery, whatever, to get that. And there's a key point here of make sure you get potting soil, not garden soil. There is a difference between the two. Don't buy garden soil for pots, buy actual potting soil. All right, there's a big difference in how they combine the ingredients of the soil that's better for pots than garden soil is. And you're not going to see the results you want to see if you use garden soil. So get your pot, get your soil, fill it up to the point where your plant will sit about an inch or two below the very top edge of the pot. And that'll give you a little bit of room to work with later on, and it helps out with watering it too, all right? If it's right at the top, the second you start watering it, it starts spilling out over the edges, all right? You want that water to go through the dirt, not just kind of spill out over it. So this gives you a little bit of room to play with on that. Fill it up with dirt to that point, and you literally just squeeze the sides of the pot, and it helps out a whole lot if you wait until the soil is dry. If you let it dry out, it's going to work out a whole lot better for you because it's not going to be moist. Moist soil, moist roots tend to just bind everything up and make it a lot harder to work out. You just squeeze the sides of it all the way around, squeeze the bottom of it too, just to loosen everything up. If you need to, you can take a butter knife and stick it down along the edge, the inside edge of the pot, and work it all the way around to break it free from the pot. Then it's just a matter of sliding it out. And when you do this, take a couple of minutes to look at your roots, all right? See what kind of root structure you have here. Make sure it's the right color, nice bright white. Obviously, it's in dirt, so if it's dirty, that's all obviously going to be there. But make sure they're not just a rotting yellow brown color to them. If they're bound up, all you do to loosen it up is just run your fingers along the bottom of it. Squeeze it a little bit, tease the soil, tease the roots, and get them to where they kind of hang down like that. And that'll help them spread out for you, all right? Then what you're gonna wanna do, and I've already done it to this one, is remove the bottom 2 or 3 inches of leaves. Just pinch them off, pinch them and pull them off. Peppers are a type of plant just like tomatoes, where they will grow roots out of their stem if you allow them to, all right? So if you pull off the bottom few leaves down here, clear out a good 2 or 3 inches, it'll start growing, and you bury that, it'll start growing roots out of the stem too. So you're giving it a little bit more room there. And it buries a root ball a little bit deeper in the soil, and it gives the plant a little bit more of an anchor there to hold it in place and give it a little bit more stability and support, all right? This is a great time to correct any issues you have of it growing kind of slanted or crooked or whatever you want to, because you're literally burying it. So you can just arrange it exactly how you want and then bury it. That's all you're doing. Fill it up all the way around along the edges here, all the way up, pack that soil down, get it nice and tight, and fill it all the way up to the point where it's about 1 inch or 2 below the top of that pot. All right, and a lot of them have just a nice little line there, right there, where it's great for you to just stop right there. This guy right here, he's got, a couple of inches of room there. That's perfect. From that point on, all it is just give it a nice, deep, healthy watering. Again, excess is gonna drain out, so you'll be fine. Don't worry about, oh my God, how much is too much, whatever. All of the excess is gonna drain out. Now, at this point, it's time to think about whether or not you want to provide some sort of stabilizer, some sort of support system for this plant. Now, you can go with these right here. These are about $2. It's a 33-inch tomato cage. I get them out Lowe's or Home Depot. They're in abundance there. Or you can just go with bamboo stakes that you stick in the dirt and then use twine to actually tie it around the main stem to give it that support. That way it doesn't fall over under its own weight. I've had a lot of plants that have gotten too crazy, too big, and they just break under their own weight. Also protects from wind, because wind is going to be blowing on this guy if you have it outside. So constant wind will constantly push over, and you'll get a lot of plants that snap because of it, especially if you have high winds and stuff like that. But that's literally all there is to it, all right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, keep an eye on how it's behaving. If you start seeing it literally just think of it as deflated. All the leaves, instead of being pointed up and around, all of that, they all just kind of hang down. It looks deflated and wilted. It's too dry. Give it some water. But the awesome thing about that is, when you do stress your plants like that, what that does, if there's peppers growing on it, is it causes it to release capsaicin even more. It causes it to jump up the heat level on that plant too. So if you're actually trying to get a little bit of extra heat and get those peppers up on the higher end of the Scoville scale, stress them out a little bit. Let them get weepy for a little bit, and then give them water. It's incredibly easy. You'll see fantastic results, especially if you feed them properly, all right? Feeding peppers is incredibly important, all right? It's not just water and sunlight that they use. They need nitrogen, they need potassium, and they need phosphorus, all right? All three are incredibly important to these plants. Up-potting them is an incredibly daunting task. It might seem like it, but it's rather easy. It's really easy. I can fire out about 100 plants in a day up potting if I really want to dedicate that much time to it. It's incredibly easy. All it takes is a pot and some dirt and a plant. That's it. That's all you need to do it. And again, you're going to get fantastic results from it. I absolutely blown away by how awesome this plant is doing. And I really want to share that sort of stuff with y'all. Like, it's fantastic. I love it. That's it for now. We'll be back with other videos on, fertilizers, growing in beds, amendings, pretty much any topic I can think of, I will make a video for y'all. So you know what to do. It's YouTube. It's 2021. Nobody's new to this game. Like it, subscribe it, share it, whatever. Do it. All right, guys. Thanks for your time, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something out of it, and I really hope you love peppers too. Thanks.